Teka lang, one moment. Before we Before we begin, I will be presenting the classroom rules to ensure a safe and productive learning environment. To ensure a safe and productive learning environment, we will observe the 5 Ps. Can one student read the 5 Ps? Thank you, Ms. Abion. Be positive, be productive, be polite, be prepared, and be respectful. The 5 Ps are provided to guide the students on how they should and will behave in the class. Can another student please read the additional rules? Thank you, Mr. Ibo. These rules are also expected to be followed by the students. It is designed for the sake of both the students and the teacher. Are there any questions? Good. Then let's proceed with today's lesson. Before we begin, please ready your notebooks and papers and pay attention to the lesson. We will be having a set of activities to both test and improve your skill in today's topic. What do you notice about these words? Okay, good answer. Anyone else? Very good. These are what we call evaluative words. What do you think evaluative words are? Good guess. Now, what are evaluative words? Evaluative words are positive or negative language that judges the worth of something. It includes language to express feelings and opinions, to make judgments about aspects of people such as their behavior, and to assess quality of objects such as literary works. Evaluative words are often used by a speaker to convey emotions or feelings he wanted his listeners or speakers to feel. Excuse me. Evaluative words are often used by a speaker to convey emotions or feelings he wanted his listeners and readers to feel. Can a student read the next slide? Very good. Thank you, Ms. Munsayak. Steve and Margaret were horrible parents. They were too focused in their social lives that they neglected their children. Do you think Steve and Margaret are good parents? Why? What are your opinions or feelings for the couple after reading the statement? Very good. They weren't good parents because they neglected their children. They prioritized their social life to the point of neglecting the children. Through listening or reading the sentence, your opinions or feeling about the couple become negative. As you can see, this falls under both express feelings and opinions and to make judgments about aspects of people such as their behaviors. We can clearly see the speaker's opinion about the behavior of the parents towards their children. The speaker conveys feelings of sadness for the children's situation and anger towards the parents' behavior. Through the speaker or writer, your perception of both the parents is formed. It is either changed or shaped. The speaker or writer were able to express their opinion about the couple, thus influencing your own, and not in a favorable light. The speaker-writer used an evaluative word in their sentence, and this evaluative word was the tool used by the speaker or writer in their objective. Now, let's see what you've learned so far. Please identify the evaluative words in the following sentences. For sentence number 1, what is the evaluative word used? Very good. And for sentence number 2, what is the evaluative word used? Again, very good. Now, how about for sentence number 3? What is the evaluative word used? Marvelous. Good work, guys. Now, let's move on to the lesson. The objective of today's lessons are, can a student please read the slide? Thank you, Ms. Benaobra. Those will be the objective of today's lesson. I hope that at the end of the class, we will have reached them. Have you ever allowed personal opinions to influence your judgment and or actions in an unfair way? Okay, good. You see, as we live and tackle every day, we gain experiences or we are influenced by others. These experiences and influences affects our beliefs. They are formed or reformed. These beliefs or personal opinions influence our judgments and actions in either a good way or a bad way. Can a student please read the slide? Thank you, Miss Yalina. Does any of the three students show personal opinions? Does any of the three subjects show personal opinions? What are those three personal opinions? Now, do those personal opinions influence the three subjects' judgments and or actions in an unfair way? If that is your answer, why is it unfair? Very good. For the next one, what do you see in the slide? Okay. Do you know what the messages the pictures give? Do you think both these pictures' message will affect your beliefs? You see, the last two slides are examples of biases and propaganda. Based on your own knowledge, what are biases and propaganda? Good answer. For a more certain definition, biases are judgments based on personal point of view. It is the action of supporting or opposing a particular person or thing in an unfair way because of allowing personal opinions to influence your judgment. While propaganda refers to the spreading of misinformation, ideas, or rumors that it's meant to make people accept them, the ideas may be false or misleading. Propaganda is a type of message aimed at influencing the opinions or behavior of people. Instead of impartially providing information, it is often deliberately misleading. Biases and propaganda are both used to influence people, to persuade, believe, buy, or do something. We will be discussing the different types of biases and propaganda devices. We will begin with biases. There are different types of biases used in reports, stories, or forms of informative media. These are bias by omission, bias by selection of sources, bias by story selection, bias by placement, bias by labeling, and bias by spin. Can a student please read the types of biases and their meaning? Thank you, Ms. Aliendra. First, we have bias by omission, leaving one side out of an article or a series of articles over a period of time. In this type of bias, omission means leaving something out. You purposefully remove a necessary part to achieve an objective. The objective would be to make people believe your side or adopt your opinions or beliefs. An example is if a certain information is vital in turning people away from your argument. You omit or you do not mention that information. Without this information, people are more likely to believe you or side with you. Next, bias by selection of sources, including more sources that support one view over another. In this one, you add a source to support your argument or belief and make the other side lose face. An example of this is a person mentioning or claiming that other people or people in authority believes or supports their narrative. Next, bias by story selection. A pattern of highlighting news stories that coincide with the agenda of either the left or right, while ignoring stories that coincide with the opposing view. An example of this type of bias is media reporting in Fox Channel in America. The channel only reported news that carried former President Trump's political views and ignored any other news opposing that political view. Because of this, a lot of people were misinformed. If you can remember, a lot of Americans do not believe that face masks help prevent the spread of COVID, and it is in their belief that they shouldn't wear one. Next is bias by placement. It is a measure of how important the editor coincides the story. For this bias, if we are aware of how news operates, the ones who are deemed important by the editor are placed in front pages and given a wider spread. By wider spread, it means more spaces in a newspaper or airtime in TV. Those deemed not important enough are either added in later pages or are rejected. Next, bias by labeling occurs when a reporter not only fails to identify a liberal as a liberal or a conservative as a conservative, but describes the person with positive labels. By putting labels on people or groups, opinions about those people or group changes depending on whether the labels are positive or negative. Next up is bias-based spin. Occurs when the story has only one interpretation of an event or policy, to the exclusion of the other. Most events have various sides. This type of bias only takes one side or interpretation of the event or policy, and disregards the other. This leads to misinformation and errors in judgment. Now, those are the different types of biases used in informative media. Are there any questions? Good. Now, to test your understanding of the lesson, we will have our first activity. Let us test what you've learned with this activity. You have 10 minutes to answer the activity. Okay, time's up. Raise your pens. We will now be checking your work. What is the correct answer for number 1? Very good. The correct answer is letter A. How about number 2? Very good. The correct answer is letter C. And what is the correct answer for number 3? Correct again. The correct answer is letter C. And for number 4? Very good. Last one, 5. Excellent. You're all paying attention. Now you have finished checking your papers. Please submit it for recording of score. Good work, everyone. Let us now proceed to the next part. After defining the different types of biases, we will now tackle the different types of propaganda devices used. Can a student please read the different types of propaganda devices and their meaning on the slide? Thank you, Ms. Tugano. For the first part, bandwagon. You are attracted to use a product or join an activity because everyone is doing it. This device encourages an individual to do the same activity as experienced by a number of people. An example of this is join an educational trip to art in the city. Buy 2 tickets and get 1 for free. Join thousands of learners who have appreciated the beauty of art in their lives for several times. So what are you waiting for? It is worth the experience. As you can see, it claims that thousands of learners have tried the trip and implied to have enjoyed it. You are prone to trust it and want to avail because it is what everyone else is doing. Next is plain folks. You are encouraged to use a product because it's what folks at home are using. This uses ordinary people as endorsers to show that the product is being used by usual persons. An example of these are advertisements such as, this electric fan is assembled for you to feel the ambience of nature. Feel the breeze of natural air within the corners of your home. Or, use Safeguard. It can keep you germ-free for the next 24 hours. Every time, the people in the advertisements are dressed as ordinary everyday people, just like you and me. Next, testimonial. You are convinced to use a product because it is endorsed or confirmed by a well-known personality. This propaganda device utilizes famous or influential people to testify about the beauty of a certain product to win the interest of customers. An example of this is Kimmy Jones, a well-known basketball player, says that Adidas is the best sporting shoes he has ever used. Or Juan de la Cruz, a famous stage actor, says Copico will always keep you awake while at work. We all have that well-known TV personality that we admire and support. This type of propaganda's target are those people. Also, we are proud to believe testimonies and claims of TV personalities. Admiration and fame can give well-known personalities some authority and pull to the masses. Ergo, they are able to influence or persuade them into buying a product, availing a service, or adopting a belief. Next, name calling. It is a device that persuades you to avail the product or service because of the negative image it creates against another product or service. This propaganda uses advertisement war with other products in the market. An example of this is, taste our original chicken inasal. Unlike other roasted chickens, which use chemicals in preparing their products, our chickens are roasted using our secret and natural spices and ingredients. By painting an ugly picture for the opposing product or service, consumers are less likely to choose the opposing product or service. A product or service with a poor reputation are less chosen for patronage. Next, literary generality. You give in. because you are overwhelmed by vague, sweeping statements that usually comes in slogan or simple catchphrases. An example of this is Air Philippines. The spirit of the Filipino is the greatest airline ever in this century. It is powered by latest technology offering exquisite comfort and satisfaction for frequent and regular flyers. It makes grand and vague claims, enough to persuade you but not giving enough information to question. Next, technical jargon. It, it uses familiar or highly technical terms to impress, confuse, or deceive customers or audience. It does not really explain how it is connected with what is being promoted. An example of this is Soyamar with Lactobacillus shirota strain is good for your tummy. We don't know what Lactobacillus shirota strain is, nor do we know what it has to do with the product. However, because it sounds scientific, we immediately trust it on face value. Next, appeal to fear. It scares or frightens consumers so that they will either patronize or avoid the product or service. An example of this is cigarette smoking is dangerous to your health. It may result to cancer and other respiratory illnesses. Fear is a very powerful emotion. Through using fear, we are able to influence people. Last is powerful words. It uses either pleasant or hideous sounds to either lure or drive people away from something. An example of this is shampoo commercials saying soft, silky, and shiny hair to convince the audience to patronize the product. This type of propaganda uses pretty and alluring words to attract or ugly and horrible words to repel. Remember, propaganda is not only used in print or broadcast media, but also in any professional engagement with the purpose of convincing the audience to believe in their views, like political rally and direct selling of products. Example of this is the pictures presented before, the two slides. Are there any questions? Good. Now, to test what you've learned, we will be having our second activity. For this activity, you will identify what is referred to by each statement below. Choose from the words listed. You have 10 minutes. You may begin. Okay, time's up. Raise your pens. We will now be checking your work. The correct answers are for number 1, technical jargon. For number 2, appeal to fear. For number 3, bandwagon. For number 4, powerful words. For number 5, name calling. Once you have finished checking your paper, please submit it for recording of score. Good work, everyone. Let us now proceed to the next activity. For our third activity, choose your answer from the choices given used in each sentence and determine the types of biases used. Write your answer on your paper. The choices given are bias by story selection, bias by omission, bias by placement, bias by selection of sources, bias by spin. Ready your paper? You may now begin. Time's up. Lower your pens. We will now check for answers. The answer for number 1, bias by placement. Number 2, bias by story selection. Number 3, bias by selection of sources. 4, bias by spin. And for 5, bias by omission. Please submit your paper for recording of scores. For those who had perfect scores, excellent. For those who had low marks, you will have more opportunities in the next activity. Good luck. On to the next activity. We will be having a group activity. Please form groups with 5 members each. Each group will have a leader. Okay, there will be 6 groups. Please pick your group number. Now that you are grouped, what you will be doing is based on what you've learned. Use evaluative words to write a bias and propaganda device for the following. We will rate your output based on the rubrics presented. The bias and propaganda devices you will be using are bias by selection of sources, bias by omission, testimonial, glittering generalities, and bandwagon. The rubrics for the activity are quality of writing and relevance, and grammar usage. For quality of writing and relevance, written in extraordinary style and very related to topic, expert rating is 4. Written in interesting style and somewhat related to the topic, accomplished rating is 3. With little style but poorly related to the topic, capable rating is 2. With no style and very poorly related to topic, beginner rating is 1. And for grammar usage, no spelling, punctuation, and grammatical errors, expert rating is 4. For spelling, punctuation, and grammar errors, accomplished rating is 3. A number of spelling, punctuations, or grammatical errors, capable rating is 2. So many spelling, punctuation, and grammatical errors that interferes with the meaning, beginner rating is 1. There are special reminders to pupils before doing the activity. Be polite by listening attentively with each other during group activity. Group planning and sharing is 10 minutes only, while group presentation is 2 minutes or less. The group presentations will not exceed 2 minutes for each group presentation. You may now begin your task. Time's up, everyone. Please present your work. That was splendid work, everyone. Good job. Now we move on to the next part. To summarize everything that we have learned, let us answer the following questions. What is bias? Correct, Miss De La Cruz. What is propaganda? Correct, Miss Mitra. Are you able to identify biases and propaganda devices in given situations? Good. Lastly, why is it important to be able to identify biases and propaganda devices? Very good, everyone. Now let's move on to the next task. In this task, you will listen as I read the following passage. Afterwards, identify the evaluative words and the type of biases and propaganda used in the following selections. Write your answers on the table below. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Arnold was walking to the canteen for his break. He was craving for something delicious. On his way, he saw all his classmates buying hamburger. The burger looks yummy. One of his classmates urged him to buy the same. He was thinking to buy the same just to join them. While he was in line, he heard Ryan bang over the radio saying, "Fudgy bar over sa sarap." So he added fudgy bar to his checklist because he remembered he idolized Ryan. Arnold is next in line when he heard the guy beside him saying, "The hamburger is like Banburger. I didn't taste the ham. I regretted my choice." He ended replacing it with sandwich because it was featured on the school paper. The author mentioned it as the best sandwich ever. If you are done with the first part, we will go to the second one. During this global crisis, a lot of people, specifically Filipinos, are struggling to survive daily. The government is facing a tough battle but is very positive in helping the middle class, the poor, and the poorest of the poor, despite being insulted by the anti-government. The anti-government conducted numerous rallies to point that the administration is a failure in addressing the country's crisis. According to them, the government has no intention to help its people. Instead, they keep pocketing funds as they dub it as the most corrupt of all. They are also trying to disqualify all the efforts of the government to help and protect its people by propagating misinformation, deceiving people through negative articles and news. For now, we are facing a problem that affects the whole world. We have to face this pandemic as one, as united people. COVID-19 chooses no one, the rich or poor, politicians, celebrities, or the ordinary people. Therefore, we will be able to surpass this challenge if we exert great effort of solidarity and not by dividing the people and the administration. In times like this, we need to work as a team in order to heal as one. If done with the task, please submit your work. I will check them and return them graded tomorrow. Before we dismiss, I will give you an assignment to turn in tomorrow. The instructions are: you will choose an advertisement available in any online, broadcast, or printed materials. In your notebook, copy the given table and answer the questions. What is the name of the product? Who is the product endorser? How much does it cost? What are the benefits that the product can provide? Is the endorsed product better than any other products? Why? Why not? What propaganda device or technique was employed in the endorsing of the product? For the second part of the assignment, it will be the same. Apart from you will listen or watch another advertisement featuring your favorite celebrity. You will do the same as the first task, copy the table and answer the given questions. What is the name of the product? How much does it cost? What are the benefits that the product can provide? Is the endorsed product better than any other products? Why? Why not? What propaganda device or technique was employed in endorsing the product? Are there any other questions? Then you are dismissed. Goodbye. I see you tomorrow. Done, ma'am.